So a large messy mat in front of you, a small messy mat between you, and on that small messy mat goes this tray with the ink on it, and then your brayer is always going to sit down here unless you're using it. So my ink plate is here. Thank you. So yours all should look something like this. So for now you can have it in front of you, and you're going to have to take turns using the ink. So the first person that uses the ink kind of has a bigger job because you have to get the ink moving on the brayer and right here. This is going to be your inking zone. This is just where you pick up the extra ink. So you hold this down always with one hand and you just kind of tap into the ink.
Oh.
So you just tap, and now the first time you do it, you'll take a good amount, like kind of like this, because you want to load up the brayer, it's called. So you're going to hold this, and then here you're going to roll this. And you kind of lift up and roll, and you'll see it's staying in the same places. And then you'll roll back and forth. You do not want to hit into that. That is your reserved ink that you'll dip back into as you need it. So you're going to go back and forth like this, and you want to get this whole thing. So I'm going to turn it sideways now. And I'm going to roll back and forth. And you're going to notice if you just roll back and forth, you're not getting the very top. So that's why I pick up and roll. That kind of moves it around. Now actually, I think with my first go around, I got a good amount of ink on there. Listen to the noise it's making. Do you hear how it sounds sticky? Like almost like syrup?
Yeah.
That's what you want. You want it to be sticky like syrup and have a little bit on there. It should never be dripping or anything like that. That's way too much. So now, if I look at this brayer, I can see it's all shiny, and there's no parts that are not shiny, like what your brayer looked like when you first got it. Now you're going to be printing. So this gets pulled over here. This is your printing zone. This is where this is going to stay nice and clean and neat until we print on it. This is where both of you and your neighbor are going to be using the ink and printing and putting the ink on it. So it's going to get on your fingers a little bit. Now I'm going to hold my fingertips on one side and I'm going to go across and I'm going to load up my printing plate.
That looks cool.
Mm-hmm. So you are getting it on your messy mat, which is fine. So now I'm just going to use, like, if I don't have to touch it, I'm not going to. All right, so I'm going to put a little bit more ink on this. So when I go back in now, I don't need to go in there. There's plenty of ink on here for the second time. So I'm going to just go across here. So I'm going to just touch it a little bit,
With your nail.
making sure I'm getting that, or I could hold the edges like this. When I'm not using this, it goes here. So now I'm going to take this and I'm going to start on the end. I'm going to be able to do this twice. I'm going to start by just doing it once. I'm going to line it up with that water line. Once I lay it down, do not move it. If it's crooked, leave it, because if you move it, the print's going to smudge and it's not going to look like anything. It's better that you just leave it. Okay, so now I'm going to use my hand and press this down. I don't want to get, oopsie, I just got ink up there. You got to be careful with your fingers, so you don't want to get ink on there like I did. You want to kind of try to really be careful. You just push on here. You can always wipe your hands on your smock too. Notice how I'm never letting go of this foam plate. You want to make sure that whatever you do, that you have rubbed or massaged every part of this plate. What do you think is going to happen if I don't or didn't rub or massage every part of this plate? Pressing it all down, being extra careful. What is going to happen, Miriam?
Some places are not going to have like a mark on it.
They're not going to have a print, and this is it. You get one chance to print like this.
Oh, no.
Okay? Okay, are you ready?
Yes.
Whoa,
that's actually
that
really
looks
cool.
so cool.
Doesn't it look cool?
That's really cool.
Okay, so now you'll pull. This is called pulling a print. So while you're doing this, your neighbor's probably loading up theirs. So you might have to wait a minute. You might have to just rest this down here and wait for your neighbor. Then when they're done and you're ready, you're gonna do this one more time, and it should get all the way across. If it doesn't, we'll just trim off the edge. Okay, so I'm gonna tap into my ink. This time, there's far less ink on there because there's already ink here. It may not be enough. It may be plenty. I don't know yet. Yeah, I'm gonna use a little bit more than that, so I'm gonna just tap in gently. You can always go back and get more, but you can't take it off once you get too much. So you wanna make sure, you wanna make sure you can always go back in, but you can't take it away once you get too much, so you just put on a little bit at a time. Okay, gotta wait, Olivia, sorry. So now I'm gonna put my next coat on here. Make sure you get up to the top, super important. Make sure you are working in this workstation and not over in your space, because then you'll have black ink in places that you don't want it. Lay this here, and one more time. Be careful, as I said. So right next to this, and again, once you put it down, you can't pick it back up.
What if you sneeze and your hands?
To this, and you kind of have to do this quickly. So you're going to fold it back again on that same crease we had it folded on before. Fold it down. Rub it as much as you can with your hands, and then you can borrow this. When you're done with this, just put it over there. And you're going to take this and you just roll this over it. This is just pressing it down more than you could with your hands and more evenly. And then when you open it, you have that kind of ghost print that just looks like a slight reflection on the body. I think we're going to rinse off our printing plates at this point. So you can take your printing plate, and please look at me, and you're going to put it in the sink, and while you're doing this, you're going to wash your hands. So I'm just going to place this at the bottom of the sink, like this, you can stay there. I'm going to place this at the bottom of the sink. Actually, here, Kate, you want to follow? You're going to take this into the sink. You're going to place this at the bottom of the sink, turn the water on nice and low, and it's going to rinse right off. So while you're washing your hands, it's kind of rinsing your plate, and keep it at the bottom. Just give it a rub. Be gentle with it. And this will pretty much come off really easily. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. Get a little soap. Probably 2 of you can do this at a time, washing. Your hands are also not going to come perfectly clean, but you're going to just give them a rinse. Give this a rinse. Probably people will be waiting behind you. If they're not, shut it off. When you're washing, keep the water on low. 2 hands. You can pick up this, dry. Take this back with you. Dry this. There's more paper towels on that side of the room.